Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Chris LeConte, although you may have known me as referee or Mr. Official throughout the years. Today we'll be reviewing Ethan Sturm and his officiating as the head referee during the 2018 MLQ finals. Stick around to the end of the video to find out what grade he earns as a head referee. Let's dive in. So what we're going to see here is one of the calls Ethan makes very early on in the game. It's against Austin, and it's a beater play that continues, or beater plays after beat. And Ethan's actually the one that makes the call here. He sees it, and it shows how good positioning can help you. So coming down the field, and it's going to happen here. So he sees the play, and even though it happens on the defense, he doesn't call for advantage because, well, Boston has no advantage to gain. They're all the way at midfield. There's not really an advantage. They're not fast breaking currently. So he stops play immediately to give the card here. All right, so what we're going to see here is a call Ethan makes against the offense, against the keeper, and it's a very hard call to make. It's a very difficult call to make unless you have the right positioning. So he's in the right position. He sees it. He makes the call immediately, and it is against the keeper for Austin.
That was not a push shot. That was not a routine type goal. That was an I need to throw this as hard as I can goal. Yeah. And a player of Jake's stature.
So a couple things are going to happen here, but the first is the card. Now the card is absolutely right. A common in MLQ, chasers are allowed to swat the bludger. So when you're swatting a bludger, it has to be the first contact you make with the bludger is the swat. So if the bludger comes in and I swat it out of the air like this, that's fine. But if the bludger comes in, hits me in the chest, and then I swat it, that's illegal. And so what this player did was the ball hit the player in the chest. The player mistimed their swats. They missed it. The ball came and hit their chest, and then when it came off their chest, they swatted it. That's a blue card, and that's going to be a bludger turnover. Now, the other thing that's really, really good here is as soon as he blows the whistle, he has an idea of where everyone is on the field. And I know this because of what he does next. He moved this beater back. He comes over and he goes, no, you haven't thrown that bludger yet. And then you get the blue card for the swat, which is appropriate.
A legal swat for Augustine Monroe.
But the issue here is that there's no hand signal. The only reason I know it's a swat is because the commentators call it and because I saw the play and I know what fouls look like. So in this case, what would have really helped, especially if there's like a crowd or a big crowd that might not know what every call is or might not be able to, rewind and go back and look, is hand signals. So in this case, I know the rulebook says illegal interaction. So it'd be an illegal interaction, and then I usually use something like this for a bludger swat or this for a bludger swat. This is also playing after beat in my book. But I would have used something like that there to really help make it clear what the card is for and why you're doing it. Your voice is good, but it doesn't carry as far as hand signals do. Hand signals go so much farther.
More than likely swatting after it hit him. It's not there's no malicious intent there. The ball hit him.
All right, so what's going on here is a series of contact is going to occur, and Ethan's on top of all of it, and he doesn't call a single foul here.
Whoa, great dodge from Archibald.
Ball goes out. And it's going to happen here at Jake Archibald, the keeper for Boston. So it's the wrap, the other wrap, the continued fighting, ball comes out. Ethan doesn't call a single foul there, and he's absolutely correct that he shouldn't. The first wrap, if you consider that to be either a help receiver or from behind, neither was the case. The wrap is let go of immediately. It doesn't really affect him. He was turning with the wrap anyway. The second one occurs from the side. So Jake comes in and he goes to juke. And when he jukes back, he gives his side. He gives directly his side directly to the defender, who then makes the second wrap. And then all the contact on the ground is legal. The defender standing over him, trying to swat the quaffle out of his hands. And Jake is trying to keep him from swatting the quaffle out of his hands and find a receiver, find someone he can throw it to. And while it looks like a reset, Harry Greenhouse comes in to clean it up, which is good. That was a great no call there by Ethan. All right, so here we're going to see a yellow card against Boston called by Ethan, so called by the head referee here. And I absolutely agree with the call. It comes in, so it's going to be shortly here.
Let's see how he can handle Team USA's Max Haflin.
It's going to happen right here. It's going to happen where the quaffle is, right there near that hoop. So while there is some level of give in the rulebook for someone defending a hoop or someone attacking a hoop, taking a hoop down. There really isn't a lot of give on the defensive side of that. So here, the keeper, who's Tyler Trudeau at this point, just goes straight through the hoop trying to defend that. And as a keeper, you have to be aware of where your hoops are, and you can't take them down. And he just takes it down. So it's going to end up being Ethan's going to call it a yellow card. And I would agree that that is reckless hoop dislodgement and should be a yellow card. Now the play is going to keep going on for a bit. Now Ethan blows the whistle here, and I want to take note of this because it comes up later on. But Ethan blows the whistle here. At this point, the quaffle is on the ground. It was last possessed by Austin. It has been possessed by Austin the whole time. Boston has not touched the ball yet. Now, Harry Greenhouse here will come in and pick it up well after the whistle's blown. He'll get reset. But right, he's getting reset. The AR's on it. So a couple things happen.
Yellow card for Tyler Trudeau?
So one thing here is it looks like Ethan's letting the teams argue, and I know that's something I really never do. If I've got a card to call, and I mean, there's nothing anyone can say to convince me otherwise, except a ref or another official. But there's nothing that a player or a coach or a captain can say to convince me otherwise. And so the one thing I do to prevent this type of arguing is I just simply ask for the player's jersey number if I didn't catch it. If I know which player it is, but I didn't catch their jersey number, I just look at them and I say, "What's your jersey number?" Or I look at them, or if I do know what their jersey number is already, I might just point at them and say, "It's on you, bud," and then call the foul. Here it looks like he's letting the captain argue with him and the player argue with him. And while he does still pull the card out, you still don't want people arguing with you at any point. You want to keep that to a minimum, to put the kibosh on it. Now the foul call here is interesting, what he calls.
The ref coming over. Intentionally dislodging of hoops. It's a yellow card.
So the call here is intentional hoop dislodgement, which is in all of the rulebooks a straight red card. Now, I don't think this counts as intentional hoop dislodgement. This is reckless. This should be the yellow. I agree that it's the yellow. But for some reason, he calls intentional hoop dislodgement, and that's what the commentators say. Now, he could have said unintentional hoop dislodgement, and maybe the commentators didn't hear. And if that's the case, good work. That's also correct, except the unintentional hoop dislodgement's a blue card. Unintentional repeated hoop dislodgement's a blue card. The reckless is a yellow. And in terms of that rule, it actually does make a difference because saying intentional versus unintentional versus reckless changes the level of the card. You have to make that call. As a referee, you have to decide what happened there. Now, he's going to inform the sideline of another issue going on with this play.
1 minute for Tyler Trudeau.
So he's talking to the Austin bench, who has a question of some sort.
Now, of course, never intentionally dislodge the hoop, but sometimes you hope the ball and the hoop comes loose. Maybe the yellow card is worth the block. That is why it is a yellow card.
So what Ethan says to the sideline there is, at the start of your possession, you are allowed to throw it back over a restrictor line once. And it's not doesn't count as a reset. It's called the start of possession exception. So if that's so that is correct. That rule is true, but it doesn't apply here. Boston has never possessed it, which means Austin still has possession. They've never ended their possession of the quaffle. Therefore, this is not the start of their possession, which means that they cannot pass it over the restrict line or else it counts as a reset. It ends up not mattering. Austin ends up scoring without using another reset. But in this case, it would have been a reset. This is not the start of Austin's possession. Austin possessed it before the foul, and Boston never got a chance to possess it. This is why I stopped the video when Ethan stopped plays, because I wanted to point that out. Say Boston never possessed it before the whistle was blown. It's still Austin's ball. It's still Texas's ball here. The reset rule is a little convoluted. It's a little bit difficult to remember every intricacy with it, but that is one. The start of possession exception. So what you're about to see here is a fast break by Austin. So Austin is going to get the ball here, and they are going to start a fast break, and you're going to see a series of contact committed by Boston.
However, Boston 2 scored, but
So here it's blurry, and I'll go back so you can see it in real time. Here, there's a wrap from behind committed by Boston. So it's Ian Skura out here, number 33, is tracking the quaffle. And that's legal. That's fine. That's a great defensive strategy. In this case, if the keeper doesn't feel comfortable picking it up, you might force them to go all the way back to their keeper zone to get the ball delivered. Good defensive strategy. Now, Augie is going to pick the ball up, and he's going to start running, and he's actually going to get about a step ahead of Ian, who then wraps him. It's a wrap from behind here. So he's running away, and the wrap comes in from behind there. Now, so right there was also, I think, a charge from behind on Ian. And I'll go into that in a minute when you hear the call Ethan makes. So Ethan's going to give a card to Boston.
So Augie Monroe, brilliant footwork. Make sure that you have possession of the clock.
And the card here,
then makes the dive. Some tenacity from Boston make sure that they can score.
I don't want to spoil it for you. I want to let Ethan tell you what the card is. There we go. Dangerous slide. And that is also the first time all game Ethan has used hand signals to talk about fouls. The first time all game. It's 13 minutes in. Ethan, please use more hand signals. Anyway, he gives the card to Jake Archibald for a trip. And I didn't see that on my first watch through. On my first watch through, all I saw was the wrap from behind, and I saw the charge from behind that were both committed by Ian Skura on Boston. I didn't see the trip, so I went back to watch it again. So we're going to watch this again. Now, Ian has already done the wrap from behind. We saw that. You're going to watch the trip, and then I'm back and forth on whether that charge should count, because by the way the trip occurs, it almost seems like the trip is part of what caused the charge from behind, but it also seemed to me like the player had enough time to stop and not carry all that momentum into the offensive player. So it's right here, right there, that trip, and then comes down from behind on top of him. And I think that's still, personally, I think that's 2 yellows committed by the player, and I think the player should get the 2 yellows as well as Jake's trip. I know that I'm generally harsher on those kinds of things, but I think it looks like to me he has enough time to stop. He has enough time to not make that illegal contact. Even with Jake's trip, I think he has enough time. Now, I also think that there's enough evidence to make that a no call, to not call that. I still think the route from behind should have been called, and the trip should have been called. There should have been at least 2 yellows given out here. Ethan's only going to give 1 out for the trip, but it is what it is. Now, the other thing that I really like that Ethan did. So one thing I really like that Ethan did. So seeing that trip is excellent. That's a really hard thing to see, and I'm going to say most refs don't look for those kind of trips. Is that he puts his hand up. He's got 2 ARs with their hand up, but he holds the whistle because there's still advantage. Augie has popped the quaffle out to another player who could still make a play with it. It's an excellent way to hold the whistle until the play is over, until at least the advantage is over. And as a result, Austin scores. So this yellow card goes to Jake, and then Jake ends up not having to serve any time in the box. He is dismounted, but he doesn't have to serve any time in the box. I still think there should have been 2 yellows given out, at least 2 yellows given out here, maybe a third.
That goal is going to be good. So
all right, so what you're going to see here is Boston is going to almost fast break and then slow it down, and then they're going to crash the hoops. Jake's going to bring the ball down. There's going to be 2 passes before Boston tries to score, and you're going to see a foul called by the head referee here.
now we see the fast break game and
So the ball goes out. And so the foul is going to occur after he's going to dump the ball off to this player, and the foul is going to occur after this player has possessed it. Dumps the ball off. Now, Ethan's going to make a call here. Now, given what Ethan's about to call, he didn't have the best angle on it, so he has to ask one of the ARs nearby. There's nothing wrong with asking an AR nearby or the local AR, hey, did you have a better angle on this? Did you see, or did you definitely see that it was not what I saw? So, for example, here, Ethan's going to call neck contact. He's going to call illegal neck contact. And if he wasn't certain, maybe he thought it might have been over the shoulder. If he was only 60% sure, he might consult with an AR. Or because it's, well, 18 and a half minutes. So they're almost a snitch on pitch in MLQ, and it's a 10-point game. these are very consequential calls. And often, when you're making a consequential call, as a referee, I ask the local AR if they have a better angle to make sure that I didn't miss something. I'll still think that I'll still confirm and agree with myself. Yeah, I definitely saw this. But I do want to talk to an AR, especially with very consequential calls here. So he calls neck contact. That's the second time all game he's used hand signals to make a foul call. So he makes the neck contact call. But here's the thing. We're going to go back and take a look at that play. You can kind of see it here. His hand is here, and his broom is this very thin purple line, nowhere near his legs. Nowhere near his legs. I'm going to back up another 10 so you can see it. But really, I don't see any neck contact. I do see over-the-shoulder contact, which is legal. It's legal to steal that way now in the USQ, and it's legal to tackle that way. It's always been legal to tackle from over the shoulder, or what I call a seatbelt tackle. It's always been legal. But in this case, watch that defender. He's going to come way off broom and then keep tackling. So right here, he's off broom. And you can see he's got his hand way out to the side. He still had it out there after the play and then tagged up. So I think the call here definitely should have been engaging in physical contact after dismounting, because it's very clear that he's dismounted. And it does impact the play. He is making contact after being dismounted, and he definitely has to know it. His broom was all over the place. He does make the neck contact call, and from the film, I don't see it. I see some over-the-shoulder contact, but it is possible Ethan had a better angle than I did, than I do on this film. And in either case, even if both things occurred, let's say the neck contact occurred and the contact after dismount occurred, because they are one action, it was one action all at once in one individual, I don't want to say play, because that implies that you can go further, but in one action, let's say, if you do 2 fouls in one action, you only get 1 card. You don't get the 2 cards. If you commit a foul and then another foul subsequently, then you get both cards. But if you commit 2 fouls at the same exact time, you only get the harsher card. So if you swat a bludger while contacting someone from behind, you're just going to get the yellow for contact from behind. If you swear in an undirected fashion while also intentionally dislodging your hoops, you're going to get the red card. You're not going to get the blue. And in this case, the yellow card is the appropriate punishment. I don't know that the foul call here is appropriate, but I don't have the full angle here, and Ethan is a lot closer with a lot sharper vision than I have here on the camera.
And just like that, this 30-point lead has turned
so
into a
from the
10-point
film,
lead.
I don't have enough. I would say, in the words of the NFL, the call in the field stands. I don't have any reason to overturn it, but I would have an additional foul to add to the litany of charges, I guess.
Backfired, put in Boston back into a position to tie the game.
All right, so here we're going to see what I think is an excellent call by Ethan. He's going to make a contact call against Boston. Now, this is an advantage call. He calls advantage, so I'm going to let the play go all the way through the advantage and then explain what the call is and why.
Now he's going back to the snitch. I think we might see some John Anderson. I think, yes. John Anderson.
So it's going through.
For this Boston lineup.
Now, Ethan's blowing the whistle now. Now, I know what the foul is, and I know where it happened. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But it happens very early on in the play. And if that's the case, one of the things I use as a referee is a yellow penalty flag. And those penalty flags are fantastic because once that flag comes out, everyone around the field knows there's a foul. Even if people don't watch Quidditch, they know what yellow flags are. Most people have seen football. They've seen at least one game of football, and they know the yellow penalty flag. So I have the penalty flag, and it's bright yellow. I used it when I used to ref football, and I would use that here. And I use that anytime I call advantage because then everyone knows. In addition, if you don't have it, as soon as you see that foul, just put one hand up, and everyone on the field knows you see it. Yep, I see it. Because I've had many a player get very upset about referees who don't show that they saw the play, right? If you see the play, you got to act like it. Go, yeah, I saw the play. It's this. I saw it. Keep playing. I got it. Put one hand up because the player turns around and goes, what do you mean that's a foul? That's a foul. Yeah, I have my hand up. I see that. Or, hey, the flag's out. Yeah, we know it's a foul. So that's the only thing here that I would improve is that he doesn't put his hand up to call advantage as soon as he sees the foul. So the card is going to be on number 17 for an illegal charge. It's going to be the yellow card.
I don't see anyone ready to go on the Boston lineup, so I don't think they're.
So it's there, and so we're going to go back and see what it is. So it's this player right here is going to charge this player who's setting a pick. Now, normally, if someone sets a pick and you don't see them and you run into them full speed while you're still playing, good faith defense, it's not a charge. They put themselves in that position. They knew that you might not see them and run full speed into them, and they might have to take that charge. They could also just get out of the way. There are options. So, but in this case, is the yellow card, and it's very subtle why. So he right here, I'm going to back up one more time, take a closer look. So as he's drifting over, he's going to turn his head, look, and see the player, and then he's going to put his head back straight forward, right there, sees the player, and then makes the hit, right? So sees the player and then makes the hit on the player.
John Anderson has next yellow on.
And it's very subtle. It's very subtle to see that. And then usually as a head ref, you're not always watching the defender. You're sometimes watching the quaffle on the offense because you want to make sure you're tracking that in case it gets passed, to a receiver, pass to a receiver. But the fact that this player turns their head, sees the defender, turns their head back, and then lays the hit. I've seen it happen before. I was snitch reffing an MLQ game where the two seekers were running side by side toward the snitch, and the seeker on the left, I'm pretty sure, as they're running, turns, looks at the seeker on their side, puts their head straight forward, and then just lowers their shoulder in for the hit. It was an easy call. It was a very easy call to make. And now here, the player turns their head, sees the defender there setting the pick, turns their head back, and then still delivers full force. It doesn't count. If you know the defender is there, you have to avoid them or not make very forceful contact on that pick. You cannot just charge them in this case. So it makes an excellent call there on the yellow card. Again, the only thing is he should have put his hand up and also done some hand signals. I know for me, illegal charge, illegal physical contact, illegal charge, and then indicating the player. The other issue is that for advantage under the old rulebooks, the quaffle has to go back to the spot of the foul. And I want to check. I'm going to check the rulebook and look at this, but I'm pretty sure that it goes to the fouled player at the spot of the foul. So here it should go back to Casey Irwin here at the spot of the foul. And it does. So I would agree with that it should go back to her at the spot of the foul. That is the right call to make, and that's the right turnover to do. The rule of thumb with advantage is it just gets turned over to the player who was fouled at the spot of the foul. Now, this play is actually going to lead into a no call that should have been called. So there's this call that should have been called that's excellent, and now it's going to lead into a no call.
Mario Nasta guarding.
So we're going to let it play through. So it's going to happen here behind the hoops.
Interesting game going on. Oh, Boston has no blunders right now. I wonder if Austin's not here for the quaffle game.
This turns into a dog pile that stays on the ground for about 60 full seconds because all the beaters stay on the snitch. But here, the foul that should be called is a wrap from behind, but only one. And the reason why is on the first wrap the keeper does, the offensive chaser for Texas, for Austin, turns, sees him, and at the last second turns back around to put her back to him. And he ends up making the contact there. He doesn't put any extra oomph or extra force into the hit. He makes contact with the wrap and then proceeds to make the tackle, which is fine. You're allowed to do that. You can't go full speed into the charge from behind, but you can make that wrap, and then once you have a legal wrap established, you can then make a tackle from that wrap. So he does that. Turns, sees him, turns the last second. Now, tackles her. I'm perfectly okay with that. One thing is Ethan, I think, is starting to run over there, which is good. So that's nice. And then you've got these two on the ground here.
Just right now.
And so there is from behind. From this angle, it looks from behind. Ethan's, again, is closer. He probably had a better angle on there. But it looks from behind in the second wrap. And it also looks high. It looks like it might be around the neck. I don't have enough evidence to say it's from behind, around the neck, but from behind, it looks from behind from here. And that's a call I would have made here. Another really good thing is how close these refs get to the scrum. Although, again, I still think they're too far from the scrum. When you're a ref near the scrum, you should be almost in that like a deep squat, like a baseball catcher. And I mean, watching in that scrum, because if you can see the players, that's great. What's even better is when the players can see you.
And this is Boston's game right now. Greenhouse is on.
Alrighty, so now it's time to give Ethan a grade on how he did. Now, I'm going to grade him on my 4 cornerstones system. So if you don't know my 4 cornerstones of officiating, they are consistency, communication, professionalism, and knowledge in that order. So first with Ethan's consistency throughout the game. And for this, Ethan was incredibly consistent. His no calls on both sides were the same, and his calls on both sides were the same. He was incredibly consistent with when he would call advantage and when he wouldn't, when he would end advantage and when he wouldn't. And so for consistency, he's earned himself an A+ here in the most important category. The next category is communication. Now, communication is near and dear to my heart. I've seen many referees actually threatened over bad communication. So communication is also incredibly important to me. In this case, Ethan did not use a lot of hand signals. He did use very good whistles. He often used good vocal. He used his voice well, good vocal commands to tell the sideline what was going on, at least to tell the score table what was going on. But that lack of hand signals and the inconsistency of using the hand signals and communicating to the sideline earned himself a B in the communication category here. The next category is professionalism, and in this case, he did really, really well working with both teams. There were a couple instances where he had a couple captains talking to him on the sideline, or he was having too long of a chat, I think, with the players. And in this case, he still earned himself an A for professionalism. And last but not least was rulebook knowledge. For the most part, Ethan's rulebook knowledge was really good. He had that one stumble with the reset rule, and thus earns him the A. Now, these are weighted in order. So consistency, to me, is the most important quality that a ref has. Communication is second, professionalism third, and knowledge last. And as I've gone through my years of training referees, this is held consistent. Now, to give Ethan an overall grade, I would say Ethan overall earned himself an A- on this game. Spectacular work, fantastic work, definitely the upper tier. I mean, absolutely excellent officiating here. There were a lot of calls that needed to be made, and he made them correctly. He had a couple missed calls throughout that were at least consistent on both sides, so that's really important. So good work, Ethan, on earning an A- here. So I hope you learned a little or maybe a lot. Come back Thursday for my next ref review video. Until then, please stay safe out there.